Welcome to Your Aha Life. I'm your host, Dr. Tonya Harris Cornelius. The Aha Life is a life of more joy, more purpose, and more fulfillment. Through these episodes, I will bring you stories of insight and inspiration to help you live the life that you dream about, the life that you are meant to live, your Aha Life. Enjoy the episode. Well, hi there. I'm with Giovanni Dienstmann today, and I'm so thrilled to have you, Giovanni, come talk to me on your Aha Life. And before we get started, I want to read a little bit of your bio so our listeners and viewers will know a little bit more about you. Giovanni Dienstmann, he's an international author, meditation teacher, coach, and speaker. He is the creator of Live and Dare. It is the most popular meditation blog on the planet. It is so much more than a meditation blog. It's, you have so many programs and courses on there. It's really a place to go for your personal development in so many different ways. So he is the author of the best-selling book, Practical Meditation. This is the meditation Bible. I have it. It's wonderful. I love this book. And every time I go in to learn more about meditation and strengthening my meditation practice, I just get lost in it. Giovanni, it's so wonderful. Let me share a little bit more. You have been practicing meditation for 18 years now, over 9,000 meditation hours. And what I thought was interesting was that you have spent some time training at a monastery in France and was almost a monk twice.
Yeah.
So again, welcome, Giovanni, to your Aha Life.
Thank you, Tonya. Thank you for having me.
So great to have you here. Before we get into the topic today, I want you to kind of share a little bit about your journey, because I think was also interesting, and I'll just tip it off and then let you take it from there, is that you said you were not born peaceful, but now you're like the most peaceful person. So tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah. No, I was not born peaceful. I don't know if anyone is, apart from those first couple of years. But I was very restless. I had a very restless energy about me. Perhaps you can say an anxious energy about me. And I was a bit of a ADHD, even though I was never diagnosed. But it was hard for me to really be calm and centered until I discovered meditation when I was 15 years old. And that was a very special experience for me. I went into a workshop by a group called Brahma Kumaris, and it was a 1-hour introduction to meditation. And there was like a 10 minutes guided meditation. And that was very special. That was very different. That experience was unique. It was a moment where I was not running after anything. I was not running away from anything. I was just present and happy in the here and now. And that was so impactful that I decided that night that I'm going to meditate for the rest of my life every day.
And that was at the age of 15?
Yes.
Wow. It's so great you encountered that early in life. I would say it's early in life because most people don't. I don't want to generalize, but maybe because I didn't. I came to meditation much later in my life. But yeah, you encountered it early. What an awesome gift you gave yourself.
And so for the next 20-something years, I have been meditating daily, and I've read so many books on the topic. I spent time with different teachers and masters, been initiated in different traditions, and in the past few years, I've been working full-time as a meditation teacher through the blog. And so that's, I live and breathe this stuff. That's what I do.
Yes, you do. I saw in your bio on your site on Live and Dare that you've read over 200 books in this,
Hmm.
and just a real, um, you're now a guru in this, but definitely spent a lot of time being a student of meditation and learning all about these different traditions. So,
Yeah.
um,
And I
yeah,
still feel like a student.
you know what? That's a good thing, Giovanni, because I think that I too am a perpetual student. And I think, there's so much, the more we know, the more we realize there's so much to learn. And, I didn't say in your bio, but you did get, your undergraduate degree, and then also a master's degree in technology, your master's degree, and you were contemplating going on for the PhD. How's that coming?
I keep postponing the idea. Yeah, it was actually a post. I have a bachelor in law and social sciences,
Yes.
and then a postgrad in IT, and the PhD. Yeah, maybe it will come. At the moment, I'm more focused on writing books and creating courses and teaching people.
Yeah. Touching lives, touching
Mm.
lives. So today we're going to be talking about fear and overcoming the fear of failure, which is a common fear, I think, at least in the circles that I travel. These are generally high achievement oriented people. So the success can sometimes mask the fear that underlies it. And, or for people who perhaps have not as been successful as they want to be, because the fear has really kind of stood in their way. So I just think this is a really important topic for us to jump into. And I have to, tell the viewers, listeners, how I got to this. I use most often I use Insight Timer as my meditation app when I want to go for guided meditations, as well as courses. They have wonderful courses available. And so I had been following some of your meditations on Insight Timer, Giovanni, and then you had this course, and it touched me because as we're speaking about this, I have had to deal with my own fears and fear of failure. And we'll talk more about that when we get into it. But I thought this would just be a really great topic because I know that this is something that's common to a lot
Hmm.
of people.
Hmm.
So how did you get to this topic of, you know, fear, or delving into that?
Yeah. So that was actually the first program that I created in my journey, and I felt that fear is perhaps one of the most limiting emotions. And there's also positive fear. There is useful, functional fear. So it's probably worth spending a moment to tell the difference, because if you are walking in the forest and you hear a tiger, you better have fear, because that's going to allow you to focus all your resources in running or
Yes.
saving yourself. um, and so there is functional fear and dysfunctional fear. A fear of imminent physical danger is almost always functional, and it's good. It's an emotion that helps you to focus and do what you need to do to keep yourself safe. Now, that's not the type of fear that most of us feel at all in our day-to-day life. The type of fear that we feel is the psychological fear, is the fear that is often imagined, right? It's the fear of things that are not present and may never be present. The fear of things that even if they happen, nothing's going to happen. We may be afraid of rejection, but if we are rejected, we're still in one piece. We're still alive. Everything is good. It's we are afraid. So psychological fear is when we are afraid of experiencing a certain emotion.
Yeah, and I love what you say, because we blow it all out of proportion. We give it more power than it really has. And
Yeah.
like you said, a lot of these fears are not even real if we just stay present in the moment. And that's why meditation and learning how to be present and mindful in the
Mm-hmm.
moment can be a catalyst for helping to overcome fears.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So with the fear of failure, I chose this topic because I think it's one of the most limiting emotions, because it leads to regret.
Hmm.
And there's that study that 4 out of 5 people who die, they have regret about some, like 2 or 3 or 5 very common things. And one of these things is regret that they didn't take action in their dreams, or they didn't express their feelings, or and why don't we take action in these things? Because we fear
Because
that
we
it's not going
fear.
to work.
Can
We
I tell
fear the
you,
consequences.
can I, interject here? And I wrote it down. I have a little notebook that I keep when I go through the courses, and I highlighted this when you said it in the course. Um, you said, who will I become if I overcome this fear?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that was my aha was, who will I be if I live under this fear?
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, yeah, no, I don't want to be that. I don't want to have that regret. I don't want to go through life living less than what I'm capable of living. And
Mm-hmm.
so I really leaned into this course over those two questions. Really
Mm-hmm.
perpetuated me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And the whole shift from living under the fear of failure to living a more empowered, a more courageous life, there are many tools that help you to make this shift. And of course, meditation is at the core of it. The idea of self-discipline is also at the core of it, because self-discipline is about doing what you know you should be doing and not what you feel like doing in the moment. So maybe in the moment you feel like shying away, you feel like procrastinating, avoiding, pretending that you don't want it, failing on purpose so that you don't need to really try.
Mm,
But with the power of self-discipline, you can say like, no, this is not what I actually want. What I actually want is to take action, to take a real step in the direction of what's meaningful for me, right?
yes.
So
Yes.
this is one of the main ways of overcoming fear. It's called exposure therapy. It is to expose yourself to the thing you fear, little by little, step by step, gradually. And like that, you desensitize yourself. And you see that the thing you feared, it's not a big deal.
The
Okay,
moment.
you're going to fail. You are going to fail. You can fail um, pursuing your dreams, or you can fail working for someone else's dream.
Wow.
That's the choice we have.
Yeah, it's sounds so simple, but it is a courageous act to move on in spite of what emotions or fears that you may have, just to keep moving forward. And then it's almost like you go through fog, right? So you see this foggy this fog out in front of you, but if you keep moving, you realize you're moving through the fog, that the fog kind of just dissipates
Mm-hmm.
into thin air like that, and then you can start to see your way clear. That's how I think of just confronting the fear. And a lot of it is actually being able to name the fears, right?
Yeah, so it all starts with self-awareness. You need to know what's happening when fear is arising. You need to know that fear is arising. Don't fool yourself thinking that I'm gonna do this later, or this is not so important for me. No, it is. It is important, and you're trying to avoid it because you're afraid of what will happen.
I
And so
love
I
that you,
said that, yeah.
I I I love that you brought out this symptom. How fear can show up is procrastination.
Mm-hmm.
We either I'm writing a book. You've written books. So I'm writing a book, and I will tell you, I do procrastinate, and I come back to like, Tonya, what are you afraid of? And so that procrastination is one. The other one is dismissing it. Oh, you know what? Maybe I don't need to do that or
Mhm.
whatever. So we make these excuses,
Yeah.
but at the core of it, maybe not always, but a lot of times is an underlying fear that is not being addressed.
And so the invitation of meditation is to be with whatever negative emotion arises. Because meditation teaches you that you are larger than your thoughts and you're larger than your emotions. And if you're larger than your emotions, then you don't need to be afraid of them.
Hmm.
And as I said, you are afraid of experiencing certain emotions, and that's why you fear failure. You actually don't fear the failure itself. You fear how you will feel if you fail, right? And how you will feel, it's different things for different people, but it's probably a sense of shame, a sense of loss, a sense of regret or vulnerability.
You
Maybe it's
know,
self-doubt, thinking that I'm not good enough. I'm the imposter syndrome. And so
yeah,
these emotions we do not want to feel. And to not risk feeling those emotions, we are willing to sacrifice our dreams. And that we call fear of failure.
yeah. So you were going through where I want to take us. There were 7 emotions, and I'll, kind of mention them, and you tell us a little bit about, how those things show up. And I think it's important because that's where I had my aha moment of recognizing what was the emotion, what was the feeling that I was running away from. So the first one, you say the emotion of being able to uncover our fears, the fear of vulnerability.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about that fear.
Yeah. And as we're talking about these emotions, I invite your listener or your reader to really look within and see, is there fear of experiencing that emotion?
Mm,
Are you willing and are you able to open your heart and to be present with that emotion if it arises? Because if you're not, then that emotion is limiting your life in ways that you may not even be aware of. But if you're able to be with it, if you're not afraid of experiencing these emotions that we're going to talk about, then they won't stop you. It's as simple as that. And so vulnerability is, you are afraid to expose yourself. You are afraid to be seen. You think that perhaps you're not good enough. You're not worth it. And then if you try and fail, people will see you for who you really are. That's
yeah,
the idea of vulnerability.
that's vulnerability. And so our second one, and we'll go through, another 2 or 3, and then we'll pause and see if there's any other thoughts that you want to share, and then we'll
Mm-hmm.
finish them off. Um, the second one was unworthiness and disappointment.
Yeah. So one of the things that I say all the time in my teachings and courses is one of the most important things is the stories we tell ourselves.
Mm,
And we have come to this world without any story. We don't know who we are. We don't know what the world is. We don't know how to navigate reality. But little by little, we absorb the stories that are told. We absorb the things that people tell us about who we are, about what the world is. And so if we are born in a family that the parents are anxious, that is the type of life vision and the lenses through which we're going to see ourselves in life. And for many people, it is the sense of unworthiness, right? The
mm,
sense that somehow I'm not good enough and I need to prove myself so that I can feel good about who I am. And so if I'm going to try something difficult, it's very likely that I'm going to fail. And if I fail, then I'm just going to again feel that I'm not good enough.
yeah.
So it's better that
So
I
it's a
that I don't
cycle.
go there. Yeah,
Yeah. It's almost a self-protection to not
absolutely.
not feel that emotion anymore.
It
Yeah,
is. It is.
this is so good. This is so good. The third one you talked about is shame and embarrassment.
Mm-hmm. And so many of these, they are very tightly connected and they are just a different angle to get to the same thing, right? So shame is the idea that as it relates to fear of failure, is the idea that if I fail, um, I would be in a position that my relationships with other people would suffer, that people would see me in a way that my sense of self, my sense of identity would feel judged and shaken, and I would feel embarrassed, and I would again feel that I'm not good enough.
Mm.
Because there is this tendency to identify ourselves with, what we have achieved, with the results of our actions. And so if we try something and we fail, we think that I'm a failure, like I am not good enough, that's why I failed. But one of the shifts that I guide people through the course is failure says nothing about who you are,
Mm.
right? Like, and success also says nothing about who you are. It's simply the results of the actions you take. And so if you fail, that then doesn't make you a failure. It just means that you don't yet have the needed knowledge or skills to succeed in that particular task. All right. And so it's
Yeah.
important here to have what psychologists call a growth mindset
Yes.
versus a fixed mindset. So a fixed mindset is like, okay, if I try something and I fail, it means like I'm always going to fail in that. Like I'm not good enough, so I better not try again. But a growth mindset means, okay, I'm going to try and I may fail, but that's not final. Failure is not final. It's just
Failure
a
is not
feedback.
final.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just a feedback of in the present moment, right? It doesn't mean
Yeah.
that I cannot grow and then succeed in that. So we need to develop this growth mindset.
Growth mindset, Carol Dweck. And,
Hmm.
success is not final either. So
Yeah.
that's why, we were talking about just being a perpetual learner.
Hmm.
And it's all learning, so
Yeah.
you're right. If we try something and fail at it, it's not that we are a failure. It's
Mm.
that, okay, that didn't work that time, but you know what, let me try this, and just continuing to learn. I think, I forget who said it, but to begin again more intelligently this time,
Yeah.
and if we just remember that and hold on to it when we're in the midst of those emotions, and be able to talk to ourselves and speak to ourselves and listen to ourselves, listen to that voice inside of us that says, you are not the failure. Let's
Hmm.
try this thing again, and move on.
Because also at the end, it's not so much about the success or the failure. It's about the path.
Mm,
Whatever goal we have, of course, we would like to achieve our goals every time. I mean, that would be wonderful. But it's important to have a goal, because not having a goal means that you don't have a direction in life. You don't have a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning, right? And so you need to have a goal so that you have a sense of purpose and you have a sense of meaning. When you have a goal, it kind of organizes all the forces of your personality, of your being, into a single direction. It puts you to test. It really polishes you. It allows you to grow.
I'm
And
glad to
so
hear that, because
that's
I'm
mm,
hugely goal oriented. I always will have sometimes multiple goals in front of me that I'm striving toward, and I'm sure the same can be said of the people that will listen and view this podcast. And um, even New Year's resolutions, whatever they are, whatever you call them, this kind of move toward what are you aspiring toward. I
mhm,
read somewhere that says, to aspire is human. And people say, well, uh, you know when you aspire, you just set yourself up for disappointment, like you have a certain expectation. And I get it, the expectations, you have to be careful of those, because you can set yourself up for disappointment. But to have a goal means you are aspiring, you're shooting towards something. Yeah.
and that's part of the courage that is required to live a great life. It's yes, when you dare to desire something, when you dare to have a goal, yes, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Yes, you're creating expectations that will likely be frustrated, but you're up for a great journey and
You're
you're
up
up
for
for
a
a lot
great
of
journey.
growth.
I love that. And that's why your site is called Live and Dare.
Yeah,
You know, live
that's
and
it.
dare. That's the way to live. Okay, number 4, guilt and regret.
So the funny thing about regret is people may fear failure because they don't experience regret. They feel like, hey, I already regret the mistakes I made in the past. Why would I take up new challenges and adventures and then fail again and regret even more? But the thing is, if you don't, you regret it. Right? If you don't take the steps in the direction to what is meaningful for you, you will regret it.
Yeah.
And the pain of failure goes very quickly, but the pain of regret of all of those dreams that you didn't pursue, that eats your soul very slowly for the rest
Yeah.
of your life.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm gonna really mess up this quote. I'm a quotes person. I love quotes. I think there's so much energy and so much rich knowledge packed into a few words in quotes. But there's a quote, something you may know it about, you know, dying with the song still, you know, not having sung the song, you know, that you were to sing. And I think about that, and it definitely propels me to say, no, I'm not going to die with this dream, with this song still in my heart. I want to express it, you know, and that's what we're here for.
Mm-hmm.
So let's keep moving. And we have 3 more on the emotion side. The imposter syndrome, which is a big one. It's talked about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us the emotion of the imposter syndrome.
Well, imposter syndrome is that idea, that feeling that I actually can't do this. Like I'm actually not for real. Like I'm not, um, I am fake. It's the sense that I am
Mm,
fake, that I'm not good enough, that somehow I'm being lucky or I'm pretending. But and then you want to protect that because it would be very painful to kind of remove your mask and see who you really are, show it in under the daylight. That's the feeling, and that's the story that our mind tells us. But and again, your mind can tell whatever story it wants, but just don't let that stop you.
yeah.
I when I migrated to Australia about 9 years ago, I changed my profession from law to IT, and I had no proper training in IT. I've never not gone to uni, not gone to college. I just learned from books, and so like I was feeling, how can I get jobs? How can I compete with the Australians who live here, who have a
Yes.
visa to work here, who have local experience? Like, how is this going to happen? So there were these thoughts, these doubts, but they didn't stop me because
Mm,
I felt I'm going to give my best and see what happens.
yeah.
Right. And I worked in that industry for about 5 years, and I grew very quickly. I was made the team lead, and but all along I had a bit of an imposter syndrome in the back because
Mm,
I did not have a kind of like a formal training as a programmer. I always had that sense that I'm not a real programmer.
yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm being paid as a real programmer. I'm being promoted. I am kind of being the team lead with other people who are maybe better programmers than me. I don't know how that's happening because I'm not a real programmer. Like, those thoughts were there in the background. And
Yeah.
when I decided to quit my job and just be a meditation teacher, there was this sense like, okay, now I don't need to pretend to be a programmer anymore.
Wow.
But all of that
Wow.
was happening just in my mind.
Just in the mind.
It's not how people perceived me at all, and it's not what came through my work.
And it wasn't true. You were a programmer.
Yeah, otherwise people would have stopped
It,
paying me a salary.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I had my contact. I'm so glad you mentioned that because I am a PhD. And I sometimes, you know, and at work, people sometimes call me Dr. Tonya and all of that. And there's this little like hesitation, like, will people think I'm just like super smart in all this stuff? And you know, like you said there at the very beginning, it's the messages we tell ourselves. and to let that stuff go. Because
Hmm.
um, I am a PhD because I worked hard for a PhD. I did deep study in the topics that, you know, I studied, and I earned it. So when people call me Dr. Tonya, or, you know, then yes, I'm Dr. Tonya. That's, I earned that. You were a programmer. Yes, you
Yeah.
earned that. You worked hard for that. And I think our viewers, our listeners, if you're hearing this and you know, you're feeling like a fake or a facade, and your cover is going to be blown, you know, own your gifts and talents, own the hard work, own what you have actually accomplished, and like push those thoughts out of the way.
And the reason why I shared this personal story is just to say that, you know, those thoughts were there, but they didn't stop me from doing my
Yes.
work. So, and that's one of the messages in my course. Let fear be the background noise of your success. So let fear be there. Let
Yeah.
those thoughts be there. You are larger than your thoughts. Meditation shows you that every day. You
Yes.
are larger than your thoughts. Let the thoughts be there. Let the doubts be there, but you move forward in the
Yes.
direction of your dreams.
I love it. Love it. Love it. We have two more here, and these two were personal to me because I did kind of a checklist, and I went through vulnerability. No, I don't really feel that. You know, embarrassment. No, I don't really, that doesn't really get to me. When we got down to number 6 and number 7, I was like, that's where it is. And I was happy to be able to listen to you to name that fear, because I think that's a power, to be able to name where that is coming from, and then just be able to say, okay, now that I know your name, now that I know who you really are, I know who the enemy, I know who that
Yeah.
enemy is in a way. So these last two, number 6 is fear of loss. Tell us
Hmm.
about that.
Yeah, so loss may be different things for different people, depending on what is your desire, your goal. The loss could be loss of money, could be loss of time. It could be loss of credibility, that you feel if you fail, you try something that is kind of public and you fail, then people are going to see you under a bad light. Um, so that is the one that is maybe the trickiest to argue with, because all the other ones, they're kind of like creations of your mind, but this one can have a footing in reality, right? If you
Mm,
want to start a business, if you want to quit your job and do something else, yes, there's absolutely the possibility that you will lose some time, or you lose some money, or other things. But the trick here is you're focusing on the costs of taking action, and you're not looking at the costs of not taking action,
mm,
right? And so the exercise, which is one of the exercises in the course, is to really see like, okay, what are the costs of not taking action? If 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 30 years from now, I look back and I have not taken this action, what are
yes.
the emotional, psychological life costs of that? And you know what? Even if I do and I fail, like first, like what are the likelihood that I actually fail? Second is, how bad is the failure likely to be, right?
Yeah.
And the third is, if the failure happens, how might I recover from it? And then you list like, okay, there are these 5 different things that I can do to recover from it, and this is how long it would take me. And then if the failure happens, and whether I recover or not, how would that be a blessing?
Yes.
What are
Yeah.
the what is the growth? What are the lessons? What are the insights, the virtues that come from experiencing that failure? You know, it makes you a richer human being. Of course, we want success, but it's really through failure that we grow.
We
Success
grow.
is the cherry on top of the cake. You know, yeah,
Yes.
you want that, but and a quote from Socrates comes to mind now, where
Mm.
someone asked him if he should marry, and he said, I suggest that you marry, because if you're successful, you'll be happy, and if you're not, you'll be wise.
That's
So
everything, right? That's everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last emotion is uncertainty, very related to loss, right? Being just not knowing what the future may hold.
Hmm. And we never do, and we never will. So there's no fix for that. You know, it's
That's true.
the nature of life is that things are uncertain.
Yeah.
But the only reason why that stops us from taking action is that we have an illusion that what we have now is certain,
Mm.
until there's a pandemic and nothing else is certain anymore.
Nothing is certain. We're
You know?
all, I mean, this is a lesson for us all that nothing is uncertain, and it's great to have plans, you know, even like you said, loss, you know, to, okay, how would I recover if I were to lose? So it's great to have thought about those things and to prepare as much as you can. But agility and adaptability, um, and realizing that change is the only constant and there's nothing truly certain in life, is that's part of the wisdom that comes with this.
Because it's not really about letting go of certainty so that you explore an uncertain path. It's more about letting go of the illusion of
Yeah,
certainty.
yeah. So this has been really great. How are we doing on time? I'm lost in the mix, Giovanni.
Well, perhaps we can, as we are moving towards the finalizing this interview, we could talk a little bit about what can people actually do
Yeah,
to
yeah.
overcome fear of failure.
There were a couple of mindsets that I wanted to cover, and then can we then ease
Yep.
into
Okay.
what people can do?
Yep.
Because there were 8 mindsets. We'll just cover a couple. So if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, you should really take this course and get the full thing, because this is lesson number 1 out of 10 lessons. So I mean, it's so rich. But some of the mindsets that I thought, you know, are pretty common is the mindset of perfectionism. I thought I'd go there.
Yeah. Yeah. And perfectionism is both a blessing and a curse. It is having really high standards for yourself. Um, so it is both a virtue and a flaw. And how can you tell the difference? Well, if it helps you to be better, if it helps you to move forward, then it's a virtue. It's a blessing. But if it prevents you from even trying, then that is a curse.
Yeah.
So it's about understanding that maybe perfectionism is your superpower, and then you should own it, and you should move forward with perfectionism, knowing that you will never achieve your perfect ideal because it doesn't exist, but that it's a north, it's a direction that you're moving
Yeah.
towards,
You know
and it
what?
really makes you give all of yourself because you
That
have
is
so.
so freeing, Giovanni, because most people will say, give that up. Like, nothing's ever perfect. So, you know, give that up. But you said maybe perfectionism is your superpower, but
Mhm.
you control it. Don't let it control you, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the second and last one I'll cover, I'll ask you to talk a little bit about today, and then we'll move on. Uh, Attachment to a sense of security. Again, this sounds like an illusion, right?
Yeah. So we spoke about that when we spoke about uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically, there's this quote that a ship is safe on the shore, but that's not what a ship is made for.
Mm,
So I think that summarizes the idea. And um, I cannot force people to see that. I can ask questions that will allow you to see that. But if you're so attached to a sense of security that you're not moving forward, perhaps you are overvaluing the security. And perhaps you're not ready now. Perhaps
mm.
some time has to pass in your life. And then you notice that, that thing that I'm so attached to right now, it's not that great. Now I'm ready to kind of risk that.
Now I'm ready.
That money, that career, that relationship that I didn't want to risk, maybe now I'm ready to shake things a little bit because I see that the reward is great.
Yeah. I wrote down in my notes when you said it, currently, if that's the mindset, you value your current status and comfort more than your potential. That
Mm-hmm.
was another aha for me, because I am a personal development person, believe in it, passionate about it. And I always say, I'm here to help people reach their full potential. Well, then I have to look at myself, am I valuing the current status and my own sense of comfort, this comfort zone that
Mm-hmm.
limits a lot of us, right? We all go to the comfort zone. It's just, how
Yeah.
long do you stay there?
Yeah.
At some point when you want to grow, you got to move out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. No, and since you are a quote buff, here's another one for you.
I am.
And I think this one summarizes this idea very succinctly. And it's from Lao Tzu. And he says
Oh,
that
love him.
in order to become, that you have to let go of who you are to become who you
Mm,
might be.
mm,
And that speaks to the need of letting go of attachment to comfort and certainty in
yeah,
order to explore our potential.
yeah, yeah. We're kindred spirits, Giovanni. So let's take this into the end and tell our viewers and listeners, well, what can they do now that they've identified these 7 emotions underlying fear, and at least a couple of these mindsets that can be self-limiting. Now, what do they do?
Yeah. And there are many different techniques that work for overcoming fear. In the course on Insight Timer, I explore 9 of them. And then in the course on my website, Limitless Life, that course is actually the full version of the Fear of Failure
Oh,
course.
wow. I
Yeah,
have
and
to
that's
do
actually,
that.
yeah, there are actually even more techniques there.
Oh,
And
wow.
the only reason why I teach so many is because it's going to be a different thing for each person,
Hmm.
right? And so you need to be exposed to that variety, and you find something that, okay, this is the one that works for me.
Yes.
But if I may briefly talk about 2 techniques. The first one would be how to deal with the fear when it arises in the moment.
Mm.
And for that, there is nothing more powerful than breathing. Now, when you are in the moment and a strong emotion arises, such as fear, or maybe anxiety or anger, what you do is you make your breath be calm and deep and even. Because when you breathe calm, deep, and even, you're telling your body, you're telling your nervous system that everything is okay. Because you don't breathe like that if you're under stress or if there's danger. So if you are breathing like that, you're telling your body that everything is okay, and your body is going to behave as everything is okay.
I have a confession. So this morning I got up, I took my dog out for, do his business. And I could tell, I have on my Apple Watch where you can do your heart thing. And I noticed that I'm getting excited. And and I knew it was all because I was excited of our, podcast that I was going to be speaking with you. I wanted it to go well, and all of this. And I think it's going fantastic. Uh, but I noticed my body. I paid attention to my body. And so I paused and I just spent time doing some deep breathing. And I said exactly that, Tonya,
Mm.
it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be fine. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
And it immediately kind of just when you just breathe deeply, not shallow, breathing deeply really brought a sense of calm to me. So I can attest to that. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so let me think of which could be a second technique to share.
Mm-hmm.
I think perhaps the idea of integrating the lizard brain. So the lizard brain is that most primitive part of the brain. It's the amygdala. It's what deals with anxiety and fear. That's where it all happens. And that inner lizard that we all have, um, it wants to keep you safe at whatever cost, right? It does not care about achievement. It does not care about fulfillment and self-esteem and dreams. It only cares about keeping you safe, avoiding pain, avoiding death. You know, its version of a happy life is staying under a rock and away from predators and with 3 meals a day. You know, that's happiness. That's heaven for the lizard inside your brain. But you may have a very different idea of what it is to lead a happy, fulfilling life. So how can you do that if your lizard brain is stopping you as you want to expose yourself and to take risks and to move forward? And the inner lizard, that part of the brain that is in charge of survival, that most primal part of the brain, is pulling you back. It's like you're trying to move forward with the handbrake on. Oh. It's not easy.
No.
So you need to talk to your inner lizard to make sure you're both on the same page. And there's a guided meditation that people can do for that. But basically the idea is that you imagine that you're going deep inside yourself and you're meeting the lizard and you're having a conversation with the lizard. You're saying, thank you for all the work that you do. I appreciate you, and I know that you're always trying to protect me. But in this thing, I'm okay. I don't need your protection here. I need your help. And, you know, this is so important for me that not achieving this is almost like dying. And the lizard does not want to die.
Yes. Oh.
And then you ask, so you kind of talk with the lizard using the language that the lizard understands, which is the language of fear. And then you ask the lizard, like, will you help me? Like, we both want the same thing. We both want what's best for me. Like, will you help me achieve this? And if you do this deeply, then you will find that a part of you that was fighting this goal, fighting this impulse, then kind of gets more reintegrated. You become more whole. You become more one. And when all forces of your personality are working together, when the whole of you wants the same thing, then you will achieve it.
And that's like flow. That's when you know you're kind of in the flow. So my inner lizard, I gave him a name. His name is Max. And I have conversations with Max. Yeah, like, Max, no, we're not doing that. I need you to go out front and pave the way for me. Like, go show me the way. So I gave Max a new job. So this has been so awesome, Giovanni, better than I could have imagined. And all the hype, all the, nervousness that was inside of me just went away, and just sheer pleasure to speak with you. I do have a final question I ask all of my guests. As you know, this podcast is called Your Aha Life. I believe it is an enlightened life. It's a life where there is more joy, more purpose, and more fulfillment. And so, but that shows up different for everyone. So I ask you, what does the aha life mean to you, and how are you living your aha life?
So the aha life is the life where you're true to yourself. You're true to your deepest potential. You are honoring who you are, and you're really giving it all you've got, because you know that nothing else will fulfill you.
That's just perfect. Yes. So thank you so much for joining me today in this conversation on Your Aha Life. I'll have to bring you back. How should viewers, listeners get in touch with you?
Sure. So the best way is to go to liveandare.com. There is a lot of free material there. There is a free video course. But if they want to really go deep into these and learn meditation, learn self-discipline, overcome fear and anxiety, then join the Limitless Life program. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Thanks again, Giovanni. Thanks so much for being with me today.
Thank you, Tonya. I enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah. Thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Tonya Harris Cornelius. Come back again in another couple of weeks for a brand new episode. Hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you soon.